Okay, so we are now going live on Facebook here. I'm with Marina Perry. So grateful to have you on tonight. Marina, how are you?
I am so good. I'm so good to see your face. It's been a while. I always enjoy chats with you, Sam. They're always juicy. So I'm keen as mustard.
Awesome.
And very grateful to be chatting. So thank you for having me.
For sure. This is pretty cool. So we've got this amazing Facebook Live through Zoom onto Facebook happening, and it does seem to be working. We've had a couple of people jump on. Comment below if you're watching, or if you're watching the replay later. Add any questions and comments. Love to hear them. But let us know if there's any issues with sound or whatever. I will try and check the comments as we go. It's a little bit harder than just straight live, but we do our best. So this 2020 download series has been amazing. Today is day 7. I was only going to do 7 days, but it's been so reinvigorating for me. I'm going to open it up for another few.
Wow.
And you know, Marina, you're actually the very first person I wanted on this.
Oh, that just gives me chills.
Yeah.
I love that.
And even the Awaken event that's on this Saturday, which actually was the one that inspired this interview series, you were the very first speaker I wanted at that event.
Bless.
And I don't know why, but I'm super excited for this conversation. No, like it's not quantifiable is what I mean. Do you know what I mean?
No,
it's one of those,
fine with it.
my inner just said, Marina needs to have space for a really big, juicy energy conversation and make a stage for her. And that's what happened. So here we are.
Well, I appreciate it.
Well, I got told.
And the thing is, so will everyone else, because I know that this Saturday, like the lineup that you have, I'm excited. Do you know what I mean? Like, aside from the fact that I'm talking, I don't know if there's feedback for you. There's something weird happening in my ear, but it's all good. I'm really excited about the lineup of amazing visionaries that you have. So I know that anyone coming, and if you don't have your ticket yet, guys, like straight up, I know Sam's like, I'm full frontal, like tell you what's good for you. Get your ticket to this Saturday, because it's not just one person sharing, you're getting it all, and it's experiential, and Sam runs the most amazing events, and the speakers are top notch, and I'm going to be sitting there really open ears, taking on everything that's shared. So you know, if you haven't got epic plans already for Saturday, then these should be your plans. Get your ticket. Done.
The next bit I'll add that I also got told to do about this weekend's event, and I love that you're opening the door with this, was to make it a not-for-profit. So every single dollar that we receive from the ticket, so obviously we don't keep the Eventbrite fee, that gets sucked up by Eventbrite. But every dollar we receive is going to be given to Aussie Ark, which is an Australian charity. It's a conservation company, but they're running, or conservation charity, but they're running a bushfire appeal to redirect funds out to rural fire services, community services, anything that has they've got some wildlife like urgency causes and some long-time species, like how can we preserve and save some of these most at risk species that are now radically endangered or on the brink. And so they've got this massive plan to get funds out there. Been listening and tuning into their CEO, and he's saying, look, we're not saying animals over people or any of those things. Any cause that we can show a link to supporting animals, we will be there. And if it's around the wildlife, so it can be rebuilding schools, whether part of the school is, you know, in a nature area where they're very connected to the habitat and the way animals and wildlife are part of their, and so it is rebuilding that bond. Every dollar's from the ticket, so we're going to absorb the venue,
like
a whole
other reason to attend. In fact, just buy a ticket. Everyone should buy a ticket.
Buy a ticket even if you can't come. I'm
like,
working on a live stream option, so if you are long distance, you can watch and tune in on the day as well. And so it's become a love event, which is also perfect that it's inspired by you, because it's all about love. And
I do love me some love.
You do. And it's one of the biggest gifts, actually, I think, being in your presence, seeing that love and joy and overflowingness for life. And that doesn't mean everything's perfect or always great. You know, you have the full emotional spectrum, but I am blessed to be able to experience someone who feels life so much.
I love that you say that, and then say that I'm about love, and then say, Sam, that it's not an absence of the spectrum, because I think, and even something that you said really piqued for me just a moment ago, like love is the inclusion of everything. And so wholeness for me is the very definition of what love is. And we have a really messed up description and language around the word love. And even that the CEO of ARC needs to say, we're not people over, we're not animals over people. We shouldn't, like, love by its very nature isn't competitive. And you know, I remember years ago I met a mother who was like, oh, you know, every child you have, it just splits your love availability. And I looked at her and I was really confused, because that's never been my experience of love. Like it only expands if it's love, actual love. Like we're just, it's a capacity issue as opposed to a, you know, it's not something that gets divvied. It's not finite, it's infinite, as I know, you know. And I just think that that's where we need to move towards, is a real understanding of that, not from a theory point of view, but through an accessed, embodied and expressed point of view.
For sure. See, well, I was so excited for this conversation. So my very first question, and it's an interesting one, is so who is Marina Perry?
Oh gosh, who is Marina Perry? Well, this is like going to stump me more than anything. Who's Marina Perry? Well, I would say she is a girl on a journey. You know, she's a woman exploring herself. I could use the brand name. She's a gypsy goddess queen. She's a wholeness. She's a all this. She's a self-sovereignty. But the truth is I'm just a energy force having my go at life. Right. And my go at life is just my exploration for the fingerprint that I'm meant to be within and amongst the collective. And, you know, if I look at my life, really the only thing that I've, I suppose, done perhaps in the eyes of people well, is I've always pivoted and course corrected against the grain of the people around me, what they wanted, what society wanted. And I think as a result, that's also, you know, the work I help people do is find their alignment and their message. You know, I have a degree in aviation and I've never used it, you know. So it's kind of like in our society where that would be considered a waste of time or crazy. The point is that it's never a waste to journey towards what is the expansion of your truth. And oftentimes that will change as we evolve in life. And I think a fallacy that we have is this attachment to we're always going to know, and we're going to know when we're young, or we won't know at all, or when we do know, it won't change. But you're always expanding, evolving, and you know, being edited. So therefore, of course, by that nature, and life around you too, like look at all the pieces that are moving. So how can anything that we fix in a point in future remain constant when everything around it is chaotically adjusting? So I'm really big on, you know, really, if anything, change facilitation. Like, how do we dance with change more gracefully? So who am I in the world? I'm a girl who loves to dance with change. And yeah, look, I'm a growth junkie and I'm a movement addict and I'm a joy. I love it all. I love it all. But I love to teach, I think, is something I've come to learn about myself, you know. So the authoring of these books, I'm okay with the fact that a teacher doesn't mean you know more. It just means you have a passion for sharing. You know, being a teacher, we have so many great teachers. My girls go to school with amazing teachers. They don't think they're the total knowledge, you know all. They're just a sharer of information, and they're a collector too of people. And I think that's what I do in the world, is I learn stuff and then I share it, and people who want to hear it, they join.
Well spoken.
Actually, no, that was totally chaotic and a big mess. And anyone watching will be like, so
no, that was amazing. I like when we let go of the labels, because
yes.
You know, if we did the interview where I'm like, well, who are you? Like, well, I'm a coach and a parent and an entrepreneur and a trainer. Yeah. And then we're like, well, that was like 5 words and we're done. It's a really boring interview, to be honest. And then everyone thinks that the labels are what matter. And they really don't.
Yes, they really don't. And, you know, Sam, this book I'm writing at the moment, it's literally one of the most massive things is the limits of our labels and our importance to lose them. And, you know, as an entrepreneur who has a lot of staff, I have to constantly fight against the battle and the desire for inside of that culture for there to be clean hierarchy, which I can see the benefit of, but it's just the nature of the beast to want to know who's above who, whose title reflects what. And just to notice that, and for someone who feels that there is a capacity beyond that, there's a real struggle for me at times to dance inside what works for them, but also see what's possible for all of us. So I see labels are fun, but I love around labels and particularly identity. I think we're this and this, you know, like the chaotic, well, I've always said I'm a walking contradiction in terms, and I have that right to be. And I think we all have that right to be. You know, sometimes I'm incredibly decisive and really action orientated inside of, you know, being a CEO of a 20-year now health brand and company. And then I'm also a wildly indecisive, sometimes really hesitant, you know, person inside of a personal brand, do you know? So, and both of those parts exist in me. And that's the beauty of our wholeness. It's all there. And if we limit it to like, well, I'm just going to be this, we actually, that splinter separates us from the isness that we can play with and also access for when we need those parts of us that we think aren't there, but of course they are.
For sure.
So yeah, let's get rid of the labels.
Yay. Well, are you ready to dive into the deeper questions? So the first part of this interview, we sort of do a reflection and looking back.
Okay.
And please take the invitation to share around your life and what you're doing versus what you see in the people you work with, other leaders, trends out there in the world. There's full permission. I think it was Jeff said, you know, pretty clearly he's not the guru or Nostradamus. And like, no one thinks that. You're trying to predict every single thing or speak for every human. But fucking use an absolute if you see or feel or hear an absolute. Just go with it. And sometimes our energy comes through with that, and it's fun.
Let's do it.
Cool. What did you love most about 2019?
What I loved most about 2019 for me personally is it taught me two things. It taught me the importance of timing and patience. So by that, I simply mean that 2019 taught me, I mean, I've always known things happen in cycles, but when you're a doer in life and you tend to run very comfortably in the masculine energy, and you know that there's time for reflection and you can rest on all that, to really be forced, because it's not yet ready to be birthed, to be forced with the patience to understand that literally pushing prior to a contraction is not a good idea. And that in fact, until something's ready to be birthed, you just got to sit and wait. And that the waiting is the work. Like the marination, you know, the metamorphosis of that caterpillar into that butterfly, we're all like super cheering the butterfly, how amazing the work they did. The butterfly didn't do the bloody work, you know. The shedding and the transformation that was in the soil in that cocoon, that's the work. And so for me, that was what 2019 was. I was less productive in the world. I was putting out less. And most of the time I was waiting. I was waiting for things to drop in, you know, from an alignment perspective, to become a hell yes, to get clarity. I'm someone who's generally clear. So the absence of clarity said to me, I'm not quite there yet, as opposed to I need to figure this out. So 2019, what I loved most about it was the personal lesson I got from the cycle of winter, you know, and the cycle of really that seeding and to just letting things sit. And when things are ready, that's the time. And before then, it's actually sometimes it's just not going to fly. So patience was what I learned. And then I also learned on a personal level, and a really personal level, and this is after being in, you know, positive thought patterns, you know, for 20 something years, and deep personal development work and systemic work for 10 years, I learned that the depths of our layers just get deeper and deeper and deeper. And I don't say that to discourage anyone who's like, well, shit, what's the point then? But rather that even as we expand and expand, there's no end to the expanding. And when we reach levels that we think are full, there's more fullness to be had if we're ready to do the dance again with those edges of our cage. And so for me, there was stuff that it was like an invisible wall almost, that I was like, what is this? Oh, I don't, you know, and then like, oh my God, like to then realize how it was touching every aspect of my life, from my personal relationships to my business. And it was like it was there the whole time. But of course, even though I was doing all the work and shedding these layers, and so let me land the plane on that. I think the gift of 2019 was this, that we can growth isn't just a one-time job. I know we say it's a journey, but it really truly is a journey, and we haven't failed at it. So I hear a lot of people go, well, I did that work, so how come it's not done? Or I've done that work, or I've dealt with that issue, or I've done that pattern. Yes, and it's probably tethered to something else. If you haven't seen a true transformation there, it's still tethered to a bigger survival code that's invisible to you for the reason that it's part of your survival code. And until you're at a stage or a space where you can really comfortably touch it, it's not going to let itself be revealed to you. It's just not. So yeah, a deepening of my understanding of that. And I'm also grateful in 2019, the thing I loved was the graduation of the first human potential practitioner certification program that we ran through the School of Growth. So me teaching coaches, all that stuff was just, you know, and I did that partly for a selfish reason because I knew I needed an army of, you know, illuminating souls who were trained in the stuff that I was trained in. I did it a little bit selfishly, but also just to really take everything that you know and learn and give it to other humans. Was more growth work for me and my ego, but also unbelievably fulfilling to watch their expansion and transformation. So that was really juicy for last year.
It was pretty amazing to watch that.
Yeah, and thank you to your
help.
I know,
I'm so grateful that you're out there doing that work and teaching and sharing it too. So that's really cool. What is something you have ended in the past decade? Something you're grateful to have ended?
Oh, well, my marriage was a big ending. But you know, I talk about this a lot inside of other circles, and the work I do around wholeness, to be honest, stemmed from the awareness that at the end of a really, and I'm going to say this super honestly, a really successful, beautiful, harmonious coupling with my ex-husband. 17 years we were together, 2 beautiful children, companies, travel, really an amazing life. The dissolution of that marriage occurred for and because of the prison I had placed myself in and that he had placed himself in, that was in rejection of our wholeness. So our codependence, where we had shut down aspects of ourselves, for me, the shutting down of my femininity and allowing powerlessness to just override my life, which then had impacts, and he was the counterbalance of that. The ending of that marriage, I can absolutely say, whilst not without, of course, its pain points, has absolutely been the catalyst for all of the work I now do in the world, all of it. The awareness of what happens when we trap ourselves in labels and expectations, and when we think we have to tick life off according to a perfect list. I mean, I was crushing it at life based on that list, but I was not fully expressed, not even remotely. And so that very big, you know, breach, if you will, in the rules of my life, you know, married once was the rule I had, really allowed me, the breaking of that rule allowed me to free from that perfection prison. And then that de-armoring that occurred from there, Sam, I mean, the awakening of parts of my body, parts of my mind, parts of my spirit, completely. I mean, that's 7 years ago now, 8 years, I think. Whatever, I get lost with time, but definitely that happened inside of 10 years. And also even inside of 10 years, you know, the birth of my second child, and anyone who's a parent will tell you every child changes you. So what did I let go of though? The marriage. What ended the marriage, and also certain business relationships from that point, because I just had to, over the years, letting go was a big thing for me. I'm like loyal to a fault. It's one of my strong suits, but it's also, it can have everything, right? It has that paradox, that edge. And so it also meant sometimes I just cling on when I should let go. You know, I'm like, let's do this. I'll stick at it. I'll fix it. I'll work it out. And then sometimes it's like, actually, but should I? I could, but should I? And so learning to actually discern the distinction between what I'm capable of and actually what I'm called for was really massive in my life. So I let go a lot in the last 10 years.
Yeah. It's just really awesome to hear you sharing that too, because sometimes when you're in that process of the letting go or the breaking of the rules of what your life should look like, it feels like the biggest fuck ups in the world. It feels like the worst, some of the worst things. And to see that, like, I know this for myself in my life, like the hindsight of like, no, that had to happen. So every single other thing. So like if life is falling apart for you right now, keep going. Like you're meant to have it fall apart. That's all I say. And I say that with love and
Sam, that's such
appreciation
an
for the wholeness, like of who you're going to be.
Yeah. If anyone is listening to this right now, like truly, if you are in a space where you're like, my life is effed. I don't know if we can swear on this. I don't,
I've
my life
sworn
is
heaps.
have you? I didn't even, I'm like immune to it. Unless there's kids around, it's like F's can come and go and I don't notice. But anyway, then I was like, shit, I swear. I probably already have. Anyway, but if your life is in a real, if you feel like you just don't know which way is up right now, if you're like, Anthony Robbins says it best, life happens for you, not to you. And I can tell you for sure, when I look back, even the really ineffective coping mechanisms I developed, which were downward freaking spirals, later came to be really important, pivotal tools that I climbed the mountain with that taught me greater compassion for it. It's all leading you somewhere. If you let go of your desire to control and remembering that pain is only the resistance to what is or what needs to change. So if we can accept what is and what needs to change, we will not be in pain or suffering around it. So it's literally like a muscle, right? It's just because it's ready to transform, so we experience pain. If we can just be okay with that, the other side of that, you're going to, with 2020 hindsight, so have faith and hold the line, because even in 2019, I went through some of my, even post-divorce, years post-divorce, post all that big stuff, big, deep, dark holes. And only because of the work I've done and the knowing that life, I truly believe life happens for us if we come into a land and we come into that space of what is in my highest and best good? Who am I here to be? Who am I here to serve? If we come back to that place and we follow that chord, then whatever you're moving through, it's only because you're supposed to shed it. You're only supposed, and whatever's leaving, something better is coming. Believe that. But we have to be prepared to give up what we think is good to be able to receive that which is amazing or great. And sometimes it's currently, and this is important to remember too, beyond your comprehension at this point. It's important to remember that where you are right now, you sometimes can't conceive of something so magnificent falling into your lap because you're holding on to what's currently here. And the fear of losing what's currently here is actually restricting you from receiving what wants to come to you. So if you're in that place and space, just drop into surrender. I remember after, my ex and I split for about 2.5 years, I wore on my wrist I have one now that says trust in miracles, 2 of them actually, but I wore one that said surrender, just let go of control. Because I was such a control freak, Sam. I just was saving everyone, fixing everything. And until I let go of that, I was trapped. Our patterns trap us. But they do it lovingly. They do it because, as I now teach, they're survival codes, but they're also really ineffective love codes. They, at one point, were there to keep you safe.
And you wouldn't try to keep yourself safe if you didn't love yourself at some level.
Exactly. No, Sam, I'm so glad you said that, because this is actually a big piece that I'm writing about at the moment, and that's really massive on my heart. And I had a really strong, really direct message on this come to me about May last year. And all the things that we think we do, which are self-loathing, all the addictions, all the sabotage patterns, they are all truly the highest act of love. They are a part of you loving you so freaking hard that they are causing you that suffering because they believe, that part of you strongly believes that if they didn't do that, something disastrous would happen for you. So they're prepared to have you heavily dislike them. Just like a parent, I will keep you safe above all else. That is the highest degree and highest act of love is, yes, while I want you to be happy, more important is that you stay alive. So those codes or those behaviors or those reactions that everyone out there is spraying at the world, it's only because we love ourselves so goddamn much. We haven't matured the love code to be effective in the current reality. That's all. And that's all the work we need to do, is go and look at what needs to be matured here, or at least taken out of the driver's seat and put into the back seat, because sometimes that skill is highly valuable.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Next question. What do you think we learned as a collective last year?
What did we learn as a collective last year? Oh, well, I really feel like, I don't know if it was specifically last year, but in the last little bit, I really do feel like we're moving through a tipping point. I think we're right in it right now with this awakening of the consciousness. And I feel like we're starting to, although there's still this outlying tendency to fragment into the two ends of the paradox, like to go from one extreme to the other. And we're still seeing threads of that. But I feel that as a collective last year, there was an absolute elevation. You can see it in what's showing up on Instagram and in the memes and things like that, of there's a more of an acceptance around the parts of ourselves that we used to shame. So there's more of an acceptance of, you know, oh, our attachment styles, and there's more an acceptance to talk openly about our stuff. Yet I don't think people are still at a level where they're like acknowledging the pattern isn't healing the pattern. So I think we got to a point recently where everyone's like keen to talk about their patterns because it's almost like the new thing. The better you know yourself, the more evolved you are. Yes, and what are we doing about that to expand beyond the behavior that comes with that programming? So I would say that as a collective, we got more comfortable. We just got comfortable wading in that waters. You can see it in the quotes. You can see it in like what people comment about. Oh, that's, you know, we're opening into more self-acceptance. Definitely inside of the health space, for me, we saw a massive shift towards more representation as a collective of non-perfect bodies, and almost a heavy backlash against, you know, the perfection, the filters, the diet culture. So we're seeing more and more and more an inclusion and an awareness that our body is not our identity, which from the health perspective, that's obviously still a big aspect for me. And I think that's going to continue to push forward. And equally, I think this awareness of collectively like, oh, I'm not my body, but I'm also not the stuff I do, is going to get even deeper. And I'm excited. I know lots of people are naysaying about where we are in 2020 and what's happening, but I feel a massive expansion coming. And I really hope that we shift from these two sides of the paradox to really come into, yes, the paradox exists, and our job is just to try hover around here, not stay, but just hover around here. Because it's even like inside of this masculine feminine conversation, you've seen me, I almost want to I boil sometimes when I hear people talk about it, because I want to dive in on that. And, you know, us attacking toxic masculinity is just ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, you know? And it's like we trade one war for the other, honestly. And this is the one thing that I want to say particularly about this. I love this body positivity and this representation. Even Nike, you know, you go into Nike, and I know people are like, what's the big deal? It's a bigger, what do you call the things they put the clothes on? What are they called?
Like a store dummy kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that called? I can't, like, words.
A mannequin.
Mannequin, yeah. So, you know, seeing plus size mannequins in big brands, I know people are like, big deal, are cool, of course we're there. But actually, not that long ago, that was, you know, we didn't see plus size models on, you know, there's a lot of lip service, but no actual people on the covers being represented. Cellulite was still airbrushed, all of this stuff, right? But then what I'm noticing, and this is where I'm like, but don't go there. And we do this in the feminine masculine space, and we do this around race as well, is then we get angry and we attack back. So now we're seeing representation, which is so important, because if someone isn't represented in the media, they feel like they don't exist. Yet to take that and then get angry and at people who naturally are a certain size is ridiculous. So I just feel that what we want to do is come into, I'm amazing and whole, and I need to be here too. And so do you, not like now and attack back because you didn't have me here earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that conversation around who's the most wronged and who's got the most whatever. It never ends. Like if we don't, but the point that really stood out for me was when you said, if we don't see ourselves in the media, we feel like we don't exist. It's also that we feel that we're inherently wrong.
Yes, and I'm so glad you said, I mean, this is the work. This is all of the work, Sam, is around what we make right. And it comes back literally to the sentence you said at the beginning, where the art guy had to say, well, we're not animals over humans. No, but you can still be pro animals. Like being pro something, our culture is, if you're pro something, that means you're against something. But that is not actually what being in support of something means. You can support something without being in war against something else, right? And you can just have a strong desire to be of support of something. And so, but what has happened is when we write something, the way that we currently do it, write as in RIGHT, we automatically wrong something. This is the judgment of our society to discern yes and no. And I mean, on some level, of course, behaviorally and as animals, we need that. Like, which is better? What is, you know, going to keep me more accepted, more in belonging, more safe, etc. But we're at a level now where we're not going to die of starvation. You know, we're so blessed, none of us should be stressed. And yet we're more stressed than ever because we've got more rules about what right looks like, which makes more of us wrong. like most of us feel wrong in some aspect. I'm either wrong socially, or I'm wrong in the way I look, or I'm wrong in the way I think, or I'm wrong in the way I don't have enough money, or I'm wrong in the way I do the work that I do in the world because it doesn't look like everyone else. Yeah, I feel like the future is really going to hold, when I say wholeness, I mean the paradox is going to be included and celebrated. And the nuances are going to be celebrated again, because like even from health to business, we're not celebrating the bio-individuality of our bodies, and we're not celebrating the nuances of our innovative magic. That's what I'm seeing in the business space that I'm hoping changes, and I think it will.
Yeah. I'm hoping for that too. Next question. This is our last one, sort of particularly that's on the looking back. Not that, we can bounce all over time too. That's allowed. So this one is, what's the most important leadership trend that you saw rising in the last decade?
Well, I mean, if we look at the decade, it's authenticity. So I think that, and this comes to what we're talking about, the inclusion of the parts, the wholeness. I mean, if we go back a decade, I still feel like towards the end of this last decade, we're still doing things very masculinely, even though there's a lot of lip service given to femininity. And again, not gender orientated, but I feel we were looking to be perfect early in the decade, and now, I mean, just even the fact that there's access and there's stories, things like that weren't available before. So we didn't get to see all parts of people. And now we're not just buying a brand, we're buying that person, their lifestyle, other aspects. So from a leadership perspective, it's not okay to say one thing and be different off, get off the stage and be a dick. Like these days, people want to know you on stage, off stage, and see that through and through you're in the embodiment. So the authentic embodiment has become much more of a priority inside of leadership, whether that's in traditional bricks and mortar business or on the online world.
It's a really interesting one, that there's so many of us seeing that, valuing it, magnetizing towards that, working to live that. And yet there's certainly a case to be made that our governments, politics, whatever, have got no part of that. Like, for the large part, don't have a lot of that happening.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? So when you say leadership, I don't even think global leaders. So that in and of itself is quite interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't even think of it, because I don't think we have great representations at the moment of leadership, in our heads of state,
For sure.
which is telling in and of itself. So I was thinking more like, leader. And I think leadership is one of those things. And for people listening, if you're not a coach, or if you're a parent, you're a leader. If you're a sovereign individual, you're a leader. You get to choose where you go in life. You just get to choose to be the role model that you are. So leadership to me is a much more individualized, authentic alignment of your truth being expressed in the world. So I don't see that in our like heads of state and our world leaders at the moment. But I think we're in a time for a massive shift around that, Sam.
Yeah. For sure. And like the moments, the leaders, the people that do stand out for us, it does tend to be that authenticity, that emotional connectedness. It's the, they're bringing their baby to Parliament, or like this all of us is welcome. Yeah. The emotion, even just I think the emotional intelligence of, I was at Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand after the all the crisis over there compared to our leadership here. It's like there's levels of emotional connectedness and involvement, responsibility, speaking to challenges with a realness. And I think, like those little seeds of it show me that is the seed of the future. But far out, we have a long way to go.
And we need more of it. And in fact, I think if anyone was going to give lessons, she should, and the world should pay attention. Yeah, she's amazing, actually.
Super cool. So let's start looking forward. So what's new and exciting for you in 2020? What's coming?
For me personally? For me personally, well, I'm going to birth a book this year. I'm declaring it to the world. It's going to happen. And that's kind of a little bit actually of what I was talking about with the marination in this last year. Like I intended to have that book out and these other things out last year. And I'm not a lazy person. I was doing stuff, but that wasn't where I was being pulled and what was coming through. And now it's coming through. And of course, the book and the energy has it's different because what I knew 12 to 18 months or 2 years ago when I started is different now. So this is what I mean. It's like there's a timing that we need to allow things to have. So for me, it's the book. It's continuing to educate coaches and trainers around deep transformational work, not surface level language patterns and accountability. Like, sure, those coaches can be in the world, but the people I want to support are the people who want to really know how to help someone truly shift and create change. So more of that for me. And then events, like I've got new events this year, Sovereign in February, which is actually a really cool, it's a super cheap event. Like, it's not like all my other, it's slightly higher investment tickets. This is a $47 2-day event or something. And we're going to dive into what are your survival codes and how do you pull them out? We're going to look at that invisible wall, because I literally went through the process on such a deep level that now I'm like, oh, this is so simple when I mapped it out. So we're going to help people do that, which I'm excited about, because, I see a lot of people investing a lot of money at the moment in learning more capabilities. It's like, I would need to learn to do this. I need to get better at that. And they go and they give their money and they give their time and they give their energy to learn the skill. What they're not realizing is the problem is not a capability issue. It's a capacity issue. It's what your system is going to allow to come in and flow through and be expressed from you. And that's coding. That's already what's coded. So you can go and learn abundance codes and you can go and learn, but if you're not like up close and personal with your survival codes, what's already there, ain't shit gonna happen, and I see it and I have deep compassion. I'm not in judgment. I'm actually kind of a bit grumpy at the coaches who are like, oh, well, people buy your shit and then some of them just don't apply it. No, some of them really want to apply it. They just don't, they have blocks that you don't have in your system, and you judging them for their blocks so that they then sit in self-loathing about the block, which is actually a survival code, which is an ineffective love pattern that's keeping them goddamn alive and has done forever, isn't helping the situation. So I kind of feel like saying, step back a little and go, what mustn't be present for that person? If I've now taught them everything that I knew and they're not in the embodiment of it, there is a different coding up to that point. Do you know what I mean? Because we can know what to do and not do it. And that's a deeper dive into survival codes. So that's what Sovereign's about. I get so juiced up about it, as you can see, because it just breaks my heart. It's always broken my heart, Sam, when people are doing the right thing and they're just missing it's like that little thing that would make the difference. And I remember 12, 13 years ago when I launched the Lean Mama System and sold franchises and wrote the book. And then it was like I saw women having babies and then going back into, the gym on the treadmills and doing sit-ups wrong. And I was like, they're not lazy people. These are conscious, striving, wanting to be better humans who are missing that information that literally would give them the result. So I get really impassioned about helping those people. And I see a lot of high achieving, overgiving, overthinking people going and spending money, but literally missing why it's not connecting in and being of affect in their lives. So that's big for me, obviously, as you can see. And then, I just, I'm still really connected and passionate about all the brands and businesses I run. And so I'll tell you something, this is not for me personally, but I see that this is going to be a trend. And I say it because one thing I've seen over my career and like all the times is I see things a little ahead, and I don't say that from ego. It's just happened so many times I have to own it now, like Pilates reformer and all that well before, and then other things well before, and, self-love. And now I've actually evolved that even more into what we're talking about now. But, and sovereignty, I feel like, when I started talking about that now 18 months ago, now it's getting into the vernacular, and we'll see more of it and people really understand what it means as we move forward. So I feel like in business in particular, we have seen a massive push, and it's been towards this automation and this leverage. And what that's done is it's taken us away from the actual, particularly in the coaching space. I'm just going to own this, particularly in the coaching space. I feel that that's taken away from the actual gifts to shift someone that come from an intimate connection of one-on-one. So for me this year, I'm actually going to launch a mastermind where I'm actually spending more one-on-one time with people rather than less, and repackaging them into old bundled stuff, because group work isn't as effective as one-on-one for some people. Some people need to have their stuff supported and harvested, and they need to be guided on an intimate level, because we're all bio-individuals. So that one for all program where you just answered questions, it's going over there, or that lack of one-on-one. So I feel like from a business perspective, but certainly for me, I'm going to go broader on certain things. Like a book is very broad, right? Share more of my thoughts with a bigger audience, but on a different level. And then I'm going to go deeper with some people. And I know that one will end up supporting the other because I have more books to write.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really cool. Like for us too in our company is that there are a lot of systems around events that can become automation and very, like we get spammed by texts and emails and messages and stuff constantly. And even the like calls you get are like, I'm going to follow a little script and blah, 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 and you're like, just go away. And cutting through with real connection. And how do we build relationships, and how do we let people know information, but in a way that says this wasn't, this is a human sent you a text, not a machine. Like, and you can reply and just get a human to answer, and to be more connected in how we do things.
Yeah, and I further to that conversation, particularly around business for a second, I feel that automation should be interweaved into the systems to support the container, but they should not be the edges of the container, like the foundations, the walls, the container. It's really just to kind of keep that field. And then the heartbeat is the humans, and hopefully will always be the humans, right? And I think too, just again on this, I think a big trend from a business perspective that I've been witnessing for a long time, I suppose, is when I say the masculine energy around business, I mean this masculine energy of copying and pasting what works. You hear it all the time. Well, it works. Just follow the leader in the industry. And that's cool because, the masculine way is like, just get it done and get it done at the level that's currently available to us and the shortcut way. But as, I suppose, even though I've been in my masculine for a lot of my life, the area that I've always been unbelievably feminine is the innovation within business. So even though I'll have business coaches tell me, Marina, no, the way you're going to make more money is, and then proceed to tell me, and I'm like, and that doesn't feel right. And I get that everybody else out there is doing that right now. That's how they want to run their masterminds. They want to see them twice a year at a thing and do a group call. No, thank you. It's not the kind of people I want to work with. And feminine energy, and this is Pure, is like a health club. It's one of the most competitive industries. For people who don't know, I own a health club called Pure. Health clubs are these days a dime a dozen. We're not a gym. We're not actually like anything else. And that's my point. Without being a massive brand with like billions of dollars behind it, we're 20 years going strong. And the reason is that I created something, I birthed something that did not exist in the industry, that in fact the industry at the time said, that won't work, that's not possible, because that's the feminine energy in business, is to go, that's all out there, good and well, you do that, here's what we need that doesn't yet exist. So if people think, femininity doesn't exist in business, bullshit. Femininity in like Elon Musk, highly feminine business brain, because it's like, what is possible when we are currently against the wall? When what we're doing isn't serving us, we can cut and paste and masculine energy, go and learn what they're doing, learn their systems, apply it, copy, paste, role model off your people. Yes, and you'll just be like a cheap mimic of someone else's mastery. Or look at those systems and use automation, and yes, leverage. I'm not against leverage. I mean, gosh, I don't barely go to work the way most people go to work, and I have a lot of freedom in my life. I'm super pro leverage. But I'm also around, I think that what we need in the world is not more of what is out there. We need more of what's actually needed in the new ways that it's needed. And we need leaders who have vision and the bravery to birth what isn't yet there, because that's what we do, is we forge forward. We're going to have to, I know with wholeness and sovereignty, I have to educate the market about what the frig that means, like really means. And I'm up for that. And I'd rather do that than copy paste and yes, sell out my online courses. Like, this doesn't light me up. And having said that, there are different types of leaders in the world, and that's fine. But I think that for me personally, I'm just going to keep birthing what isn't done. I'll use the masculine energy to be productive and to automate where necessary, but I'm going to keep leading with that feminine energy of what do we actually need right now? And I think we need more one-on-one, less like group everything, for super high rates that no one's seeing real results. And if we actually went and did an audit of people, most people are actually not highly valuing these super high cost masterminds where they're getting no one-on-one contact. That's what I'm feeling strongly, but I could be wrong. Happy to be wrong.
I'm having one of those like three conversations at once just coming into me.
Yes. Schizophrenic conversations are the best. Go for it.
Well, it's not really schizophrenic. It's like different voices talking, and so sometimes it is quite auditory. And um, I I just then have to kind of figure out who to listen to. But yeah, it's a conversation I was having with someone the other day, and God, there's two conversations. The thoughts, like they're literally like timelines open, and they go like that in front of me.
Just go one and then go the other. Which one's calling to us?
We never go both. We only go one. And it's this people implementing strategies that they know aren't right, or that they're a bit of a wank, or not deceptive in a difficult way, because everyone can see what's happening, but they're just annoying. And this price not manipulation. Oh, fuck, I hate using all these words, right? But price waffling, really, around the value of things, and that we all know it's a bit of a wank. And it's like, who really wants to be leading with masturbatory tactics when you could find something that is a real pleasure to share, and people can see and experience and enjoy it and understand its integrity? Like, it's time to lead with something else. Yeah. And I guess
integrity would be a good start.
Well,
yeah. No, I know what you're saying, Sam. I know what you're saying.
We can say say one thing and know we truly mean another to a point, and then at the end of the day, we have to look out at the world and go, saying one thing and meaning another has built this world.
Yes.
Is that what we want to continue with? And where does that responsibility stop? And if the price is, I don't have as many people in my event because I used a different marketing price tactic, like, is that the way I go?
Yeah.
Do I have to bear some of our collective cost of establishing new frameworks around what lines of integrity should be?
I think these are all great questions, and I think they really come down also to the desired longevity. Like, are you in this for? Because I think the truth of the matter is that we can use a lot of tactics and a lot of strategies to get quick results, but as with everything, if there is no depth there, when you say whose responsibility is it, I think it comes down to the consumer. And what I'd like to see more of is people who get sold to through those techniques and get into a back end or something where it's it was smoke and mirrors or whatever it was, it
wasn't what they expected.
Yeah. And just say, no, unacceptable. So I think, this is the sovereignty piece. This is the boundary piece. And this is the piece of saying, you misrepresented. You misrepresented, because, I suppose we could argue if someone's comfortable using those. Look, I mean, if we're talking sales, Sam, that's my jam. And, I teach sales. Health clubs, we sell memberships all the time, every day. I've taught hundreds of people sales inside my own company, and they have to do it in a way that's in alignment with a long-term relationship for our club. So we have to find what works for us, because it's the beginning of a relationship. Sales is the beginning of a relationship. Now, there are times where I have also, as a professional speaker and a trained salesperson, use strategies for sales that some people in the room don't find comfortable, right? And I've had to sit with that, because I'm an open feedback person, and people come and say, oh, that really made me feel uncomfortable. And there are times where I have to say, I'm okay with that, because this particular product, for instance, I'm such a stand for it that I know the people in the room need me to go there. Does that make sense? So I will move past my stuff to be a stand for them to create the change they need. Having said that, there's a difference between being in alignment and be willing to get uncomfortable versus, I think, just straight up schmarmy stuff, which I think doesn't feel good for anyone. Do you know what I mean? Like, authentic, heartfelt calling forward of people can feel uncomfortable at times, but also still feels good. Does that make sense? Whereas
you feel really seen when someone does that, and it's like a love-hate. It's like, you saw my shit, like, damn it, now I have to sit in it. Or I got or someone just laid out how it's going to work in an invitation and didn't dramatize it. And then you get left to choose. I think, like, there's a balance of the two spaces, empowering our sovereignty to choose, but then also being loved enough to be pushed through our own blocks and really, fuck, I love this rant on sales, just so you know.
Yeah.
Really, when someone creates a buying or like a decision point for us, most people will avoid decision points for their whole life. They will never face the decisions they need to make. And if someone has the courage to help us create that for us, with love and integrity, that is a huge act of service.
Yeah. And so that was the only distinction I really wanted to make, is that if as a business person, you aren't prepared to sell your product, then I would call you out as being not in alignment or not in deep belief of your product or yourself. So we should be comfortable to put out an offer and call forward the right person, but we should also be comfortable to know that our offer is not always for everyone. And we should not be so money hungry that we will sell the wrong person the wrong product.
Because it's not the right timing for everyone.
Down the line, exactly. It will bite you in the ass. And I've seen, to be honest, Sam, it's not even old school smile me stuff. I mean, you know, I've studied sales for years. And sometimes, to be honest, as a great salesperson and a supreme optimist, I'm the easiest person in the freaking world to sell to. Like, I can see all the stuff they're doing and I'm still like, yes, I want it. Give it to me, you know, because this is why the sales psychology works, because it's wired in us to respond those ways to those techniques, right? They work. And I think it's all good and well to use tools that work for something that's amazing, but it's like every power, there's a responsibility that comes with it. And if you're putting something out into the world that really isn't of service or not in service for that individual, that's where you get to make a call on your own integrity. Having said that, I've seen more recently really stuff that just makes me freaking angry, where people are using, you know, I mean, in the world we live in, and particularly in the waters that you and I swim in, like, oh, source told me you need to do this, or I got a download for you and I saw you in my program. I'm just like, stop already. Just stop. Inappropriate. And now I'm really pissed at you, because now this is where the sovereignty piece comes in so strong for me, because we think other people know better than us what's right for us. As you know, that's a collective still cancer that's eating away at us, where we think other people know what's right for us. And so if you get a download that I'm supposed to do it, well, that must be true. What the hell? Where's your own download? You know, like, we need to go within to get all the answers. So when it comes to buying, like, you need to be in alignment. Don't let someone can be it's kind of like dating. Someone can put all their stuff out there and be amazing and use all the phrases and do all the work, but it's still up to you if you want to opt in. And that comes down to you. So I just think we can kind of enjoy the dance of the salesperson, and let them add a bonus and let them do all those things. That's great. And if it's for you, then opt in. And if it's not, the sovereign part of us needs to go, not yet. Not yet. Like you said, sometimes it might be timing, or it's not for me.
It's not a match. Yeah.
Not a match.
Cool. Okay. Next question. What projects are you working on over the next decade? Or want to be working on?
Decade. I like that, because it takes me bigger, broader, like further. So right now it's books and more, to the consumer transformational programs through the School of Growth. So that's the right now to like 1 to 4 years. But within the 5 years, I really see, I have 2 companies that I'm currently working on in the back end that are, I suppose, conscious enterprises. So a vast proportion of them are charitable in nature in the back end, but they're to the consumer products. So I'm a really, I would say, I would call myself a traditional entrepreneur, not an online entrepreneur. Like, I like bricks and mortar business. I like products. I like services. I like it all. And I coach people in all of it too. So, I help people launch swimwear brands. I help people do HR businesses, like across the board. I love it all. So I have 2 in particular that I'm in actually product development in really early stages. And I may or may not need crowdfunding for the size of them, depending on how the manufacturing, whether I can do it vertically or what I need to do. So for me, those will then stem into a foundation and a charitable arm, which for me will do work around particularly children's and women's issues globally. Legacy businesses, I suppose those 2 are. And at the moment it's Pure and the School of Growth. But the other 2 are just in the background. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So next question. So we're at 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 41.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. 41.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead to 2030. 10 years. Marina, 51.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So there you are, 2030. 51, looking out through your eyes, seeing the world, sensing what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're kind of thinking back on that last decade and remembering, what question has been the most important for leaders? What question drives people?
So what just came to me is this in the highest good? Like, is this in the highest good? I think for self, for service, for the environment, it's not okay now for there to be a consequence or a cost moving forward. We need to weigh that consequence of our choices more. And I think in the past, we've been really good with our accounting around that, even in an individual level around health and, certainly with the environment and certainly in politics, we've been creative in our justification. And I think now it's really very simple. Is this in the highest good? And I think for the leaders of the world, that's where we need to go. Not does this line my pockets, not does this give me a quick fix, not does this even feel good, but is this in the highest good? That's what came to me then. But when you first said it, consciously what I was thinking was, is this of service? And service to either a niche or service to the greatest good? Doesn't really matter, but I think the question that I will be working with is this in the highest good? And I I think that's where all of the people who will be of effect making change will be moving towards. Maybe.
I love that one. And as you're thinking back over that past decade,
gosh, it was good. It was fun.
What's the most important leadership trend that you saw rise? What made the difference?
Well, two things come to me when you say that. I feel that we're going to see greater collaboration and less competition. I think we're going to see more fusing. We're even seeing this now. So when you asked before, what's a trend? I think in the business space, we're starting to see these collaborations, X collab this. But even in those instances, it's been X collab this with self-interest. I think we're going to see people taking this unique gift and this unique market and fusing it so that we have a more of a synergy through our collaborations as opposed to a mutually beneficial self-interest. I think we're going to see collaborations that bring an alchemy that doesn't exist before the collaboration. And that is what will inspire the collaboration. So there will be a creation of something new that doesn't yet exist by the fusing of two genius energies. So that's something that came to me just then around collaboration. But I also think it comes back to what I mentioned earlier, coming back to the feminine energy of entrepreneurship, which is no one may have seen this before. No one knows if this will work. And as a true visionary, I'm going to give it one hell of a shot. I think we're going to see more of that because the truth is we've got a lot of stuff. We've got it all. I mean, I go to Bali sometimes. It actually breaks my heart these days because I go a lot to Bali. I love Bali. But it's like, anyone who knows Seminyak to Canggu and, it just keeps spreading. And really all they're doing is taking the same strip of shops, the same, and they're just putting it in the net. It's like, we don't need more of that. We don't need more of what we've already got. We've already got enough of it. And I think that metaphor of that literal duplication of the same shops in Bali is what we're seeing in branding. And it's like people come in and they're like, yeah, I'll be a coach. I'll do exactly what they're doing. Let me run through the program. Let's copy paste it, put all my branding on it and do it too. No, sit for a while, learn, feel, find your magic, find your unique little nuance, your bio beauty, and then bring that. So I think we're going to see the birthing of things that we can't actually conceive of yet. If someone were to ask me what's going to be birthed or what are we going to have in 10 years time that we don't yet have, I'd be like, I got no idea. And that's the beauty of the curve we're on. Like every day now, Sam, even if whatever it is, Shazam blows my mind. I still think Shazam's amazing, and that's been around for bloody ever. But I'm like, this is magic, people. Do you understand? This is magic. The fact that you're wherever you are, and like we're a bit, oblivious, I think, to the magnitude of the magic that we already have in our present day. We live in the era of the Jetsons, and if you don't know who the Jetsons are, well, then I'm too old or you're too young or something. But we already live in the era.
I'm older than you, so I get it. I'm there with you. We're all good.
So we already live in that era. So literally right now, we have no capacity to conceive. And isn't that exciting? Like I'm excited to see in 2030 where the heck we are. And I know lots of people are like, well, AI is taken over and we're all dead. Maybe, But if we keep holding that collective thought, then more likely, so how about we intend on something different? And so this question of, is it in the highest good? And I'm excited to see what gets birthed and the creativity. And I tell you what, this younger generation, they're going to change the freaking world. They are going to change the world. What they already know is like truth. My generation, we took 20 years to go, that's it. Holy shit. Wow, that's amazing. And they're like, yeah, because they're just growing into it. It's all over their social media. We had to read books to find that stuff. And we had to go and look for it. Like they're bathing in it. They're bathing in it every day. And yes, of course, we've got problems, and it depends what you choose to focus on. I am a supreme optimist. I'm going to be looking at what's working and then magnify it. So, you know, but I just, I think, I forget what your bloody question is, so I'll just be quiet.
Yeah, that was awesome. And what actually sparked for me in that was perfect. Because you know how I said there was like 2 thoughts and 2 timelines, and I had to choose one, and you're like, do both.
Yeah,
that was the second thought, the pathway. That second pathway, exactly it. And so we can do both.
We can do both.
Fucking
you
love.
Know what? I fucking love it.
Well,
this is Sam. This is my message to the world: is you can be it, you can have it all because you are it all, and it doesn't have to cost your all. Like the thing is, yeah.
I was gonna say, but like trusting that which one to go first made the space for the next one, that other one to show up in the time it's meant to. Because the thought I was going to share was one of my favorite books, and I read it last year. It's one of my favorite infusions into my thoughts. Was it's called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, and he was like a creator behind like Netscape and a few other big companies. And he's saying like the things that were those innovations are not going to be the next innovations. Like that what it takes to go, like most change is going from like 1 to 2 to 3. It's taking something that exists and making it better. And that the things that will reshape the world are taking us from 0 to 1. So they don't exist. I
haven't read this book, but this is what I'm telling you
that
about.
Exists. I know. That's why when I read it, I was like, this is the idea in my head, and you have captured it so amazingly.
Yeah,
but
I totally, I agree with this book. I haven't read this book, but I love that. But the thing is we do need on that. It's not necessarily better. We still need people to take, one and
keep refining
it along. Sure.
Yeah.
But I think that the change makers are sitting in that void and really, but it's like attached to nothing, but connected to everything. What's here? What do they need? Where do we need to go? And then being prepared to build a ship that's gone somewhere that hasn't been gone before. And then, sure, someone can enhance that. I'm definitely, other people can enhance all the stuff I've done, and that's definitely happened. But for me, it's birthing. I love that 0 to 1. I'm going to read that book. That's brilliant. And with that whole having it all thing, just on that, what I want to quantify that or qualify that with, I should say, is you can have your all. Does that make sense? Like it's not the all. You don't have to be all the things that they are. You get to be all the things that you authentically are. And that's, I think, the distinction that's missing. Because people are like, oh, you can't have it all. Yes, you can. You can be everything that you're meant to be in this expression, in this lifetime right now.
Yeah. And this is the other way I would see it, is if you sit with yourself and there's an energy or a calling or a desire that's really cleanly and authentically moving through you, you are meant to have that.
Yes.
And if it's not from fear and shame and projection and expectations and what everyone else has and jealousy, and that looks really good, but it's from like I want that, you're meant to have that. That is your life force calling you and telling you to go that way and to have that thing, to create it, to build it, to make it your gift. And for sure that all those things that come through you are meant to have all of them. So
that inspiration from within, the idea, inspiration, it's all the same word, right? That energy that is birthed within you was literally dropped in for you. That's the same reason that I don't currently covet, I don't know, the latest high-tech fishing rod, because it's not my magic. You know what I mean? Yet some guy out there or some woman out there is like, oh my God, if I could only have that triple decker, I wouldn't even know the words. Does that make sense? That's the beauty of it, is if it dropped into my heart space as a request, as a whisper, it's meant for me, and the same with the idea or the dream that every individual has, which, I run a program called Dream Builder, which is for exactly this purpose. And I know we have many friends that share this ideology that, if people woke up in the world and did what they're meant to do, the things that light them up, one, they can all make money from it, but two, you will find a fulfillment and abundance that will far exceed potentially the dollar earned. And as a result, the world as a whole will be more abundant if we all just live to our magic. And, you know, lots of people argue, yeah, but then who would be the lawyer? The person who's actually lit up by law, you know, not the people who are like, well, a lawyer's a good profession. Let me stick that label on me and go through life like a robot dead inside. You know, I was writing the other day that we're actually already in the zombie apocalypse. Like everyone jokes about zombie apocalypses, but we're in one. Most people are dead, soul dead, mind dead, heart dead, body dead. They're gray, Sam. They're gray energetically, and they are limited.
I suppose if you take that metaphor, they're and where they're trying to do is eat other people's energy.
Yes.
And other people's happiness.
Exactly. And also they run, like one zombie runs that way, they will just run that way, with their sheep running towards where they think the greatest light is, but they don't realize the light's friggin' inside them, you idiots. And, you know, I say that lovingly, but truly, yeah, we're this constant seeking outside of ourselves. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but, you know, there's a reason it's a cliche, and there's a reason the greatest minds and the most ascended masters on the planet have been saying the same bloody thing the whole time, because it's truth. So, you know, if we stop looking externally and stop chasing externally and just go, like you said, what comes to me, the desire, the want, the need, the idea, it's not like a whim. It's a soul's wish.
Cool. I think that's a perfect note to complete this amazing interview on. I have loved this, and I feel very vulnerable about my wobbly hair. It's quite humid here at the moment.
You have such great hair.
Extra wobbles. It's the joy of looking at yourself in the camera. But I have loved this interview, Marina, and I'm so grateful to have had you on. And I can't wait to hear you share more.
I'm excited for Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. You know what? For me personally, 2020 is about being of greater service and sharing more, because I can be an introvert and a lone wolf. As much as I like to connect with people, I generally do that in intimate live groups. And so social media, as an older individual, it has always been like a kind of zone for me. But every time I come on and connect with, like, these kind of conversations light me up, and I've been really grateful lately to get more opportunities to do that. So I'm intending on even more of that in 2020, and just speaking and sharing and being of service, supporting people to solve whatever's coming up for them. Love, love, love. And Sam, you know, I just wanted to do a shout out to you. And, you know, a lot of people think that leadership is the person who's speaking at the front of the room, but true leadership is being in your power and empowering others to be in theirs. And by that definition, you are a phenomenal leader who constantly, you know, works in the back to help other people rise. And I see you do it. I see you sweat. I see you sweat it out. And I also know just how bloody genius you are. Like, I mean, next level intelligent genius. And I know a lot of smart people in the world. You're insanely intelligent, but also wise. And that's a beautiful fusion. And just as one woman to honor another, I just wanted to say I see that in you, and I find it magical. And I think leaders who get to work with you in the ways that you support and raise them are truly blessed. So thank you for the work you do.
Thanks, Marina. I love you so much. That was so beautiful. I feel so seen. It's really cool. The end.
The end. Good night.
I don't know what to say.
We'll do a dance now. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and have an amazing night, and so appreciate this.
And come along, guys, to Saturday. Come along Saturday, or check out other things. There's lots of amazing things happening. And if they want to find me, I generally hang out on Instagram more than anywhere, although I often go AWOL on that space as well. I'm a little whatever. Yeah, it does.
Okay. Oh, good. We'll talk soon. Love you. Bye.
Bye.